So I'm talking about a number of properties. Most of them are not true. They're not false either. And my equation is useful in many situations, and I'll talk about why it's useful, why it has been populated by so on, and grossly inadequate understanding of what he means to humiliate Da and the think. So what I'm going to do with you is I'm going to talk about relationships that are coming and going, that are starting and they're failing. The properties of a soul. So there's a certain myth that comes out of enlightenment so easily. I think, therefore I am. That's the thick part. Mission is conscience, and you utter things and you trust not to. For most of your form. And it's unconscious. Mainly, and broadly, about 98% of your consciousness is typically it's the tip of the iceberg. You know how you get 98% of the two waves? One is it looks up, and the other one is conscious of the verses. What your brain is doing, and the rule is about 50 to 1. 50 times as much as your conscious thought. So there's another way to move together. We take a sentence. We say, what can we mix the sentence would be in a paragraph? We have to still and fill in all the possible words that can occur in the emphasis, and we need to fill in about 50 times as much in one sentence, roughly, to be more successful than the other team. It's the unconscious of the souling resent and Benot, which is overconsciousness and the quick knot principles. In principle, be you know thy where you shall be. In the couldn't have been reasoning with a conscience, because most of your reasons are dawned. They're in parallel circuitry with that which is mine. And you have massively grown with the circuitry and the 3 linear path through it. And that is where the theory interacts with the intercepting capacity of the arms. And there's another myth of thought being abstract, and Rapunzel, like, sitting in her castle, temple, building the altar with crystals, swabbing her ears, and mattering to herself, beautifying herself for the future prince, who might be important to her mom and dad, because he might be the chosen one, after all. So it makes it a meaningful vibe to talk about this for a few minutes. And the next view is a shocker, total shocker, if you are not reasoning directly about anything in the world. If you are having this fantastic reason that will directly bring you into conflict, politics, and armament, and the environment, and human relations, and indirectly power. That's not true. Because you think with an embodied brain, reason is in the reality, connected to the world. And it's not disconnected, challenging, imaginative, though. It's only reasoning about it because it's still in the body and brain for a while. And then it starts moving rapidly and can't just understand anything at all. And this, as you'll see, is crucial in politics. You have a certain political agenda ideology. On one side, you may not be able to understand what the other people with a different ideology are saying to you in the very moment you find yourself in. You might not be able to hear the fact, sense with it, you will have a view of the world that'll be so different that you will not fit it in with the opposing team's statement in the obvious examples that you get as wild. Now, There are ideas and main meanings that are meaningful according to the old views, because they have direct connections to the external world and the happenings that happened that were forthcoming, and directly connected them to that wasn't true. What really happens for those of us who seek is we find the connections through our body and its own experiences, helping the chakras activate in the yoga poses that some of us have achieved and practiced. And so that to get to that, we need to get through the emotion of sounding like we're turning into a Hare Krishna sect and emoting like a female would with an emotional opposing enemy, reasoning in war, dwarfing galaxies, and wiggling their tails in a spa like sponge super reasoning slow motion voodoo work. It's not true. Its success is not based on the supposed intertwining of the strokes of the brain, injuring itself and aligning the fueled emotional balance, structuring new brain cells every second in the abdominal region of your figured out body. Awesome musicals published in books, bait cards, and that's good enough reason to come and gather. As I've mentioned before, again and again, it's the only thing I've ever recited with so much passion and fury. And I do like to intrude, and I do not know why it's coming through in this peculiar way. Though I know that thy will is greeting, and it's something and somebody. It's a human code of law. And you know what you're doing with the planning. You know what you're doing with the future actions you're taking, even though it's not going through the conscious mind. It's the brain energy whiz. Zach Rambley-Wilt, condoning the play-ups and knowing how to structure the alliances with the rationality that's needed for the sensuality required by the emotion itself. Very deep findings.